What was she doing there? I get that she was angry, but going all the way to New York to complain with a bunch of other small town folks? I think there was more to it than that. What if she was there as a member of the Crossbones? Two of them were dead in the span of a month. Or maybe the whole thing was a cover, especially her participation in this rally, and she worked for New York Gold and Silver all along. She could have killed them both. It's possible. She sure has the temper for it. In detective terms, I think the evidence clearly points to Gladys Morgan as a person of interest. The next name on my list, the Apostle, led nowhere. I couldn't find anything online that made any sense or connected anyone with that title to Skeleton Creek or the Dredge. The only thing I can think of now is to check with one of the old churches in town. Maybe they know something. With a name like the Apostle, a house of worship seems like the most obvious place to look. Dr. Watts. Now that one's interesting. He was surprisingly easy to find in the Skeleton Creek Historical Archives. I was in the middle of working on this lead when I heard my mom making the sandwich downstairs. That's why, when I went down there, I steered the conversation to Dr. Watts because I figured she would have heard of him. When I mentioned his name, she cringed. That old geezer, she said, he had the worst bedside manner of any doctor I'd ever met, and he hated kids. I know because I was one of his patients. Is he still alive? I asked. As far as I know, I guess he retired about 20 years ago before you were born. He'd be about 80 by now. He's reclusive, but he lives right off Main Street. You mean he doesn't get out much? I mean, he never gets out. At least I haven't seen him. Mary over at the store delivers his groceries and cleans up after him. She says he's obsessed with alchemy. You know what that is? I shook my head, not wanting her to know how much or how little I knew. The fact that Dr. Watts was into alchemy was a big deal. Well, it's sure not good medicine. Something about mixing metals or chemicals. I think it's making him soft in the head, whatever it is. Very interesting. Dr. Watts is alive, so that makes three, and just as important, he's messing around with alchemy, which has to be connected to the alchemy chart I found in my dad's dresser. And speaking of threes, the last three names on the list inside the dredge were connected. Here's how I figured it out. First, I searched each of the names separately: Jordan Hook, Wilson Boyle, Hector Newton. The searches for those names didn't lead anywhere interesting. Then I put all three names in at one time and searched them together. To my surprise, things started adding up. It was only the last names that mattered, and it quickly became clear that the first names were bogus, placed there to throw an outside observer off the track. Jordan, Wilson, and Hector were there for show, but Hook, Boyle, and Newton, those were incredibly interesting last names when taken together. Sir Isaac Newton, obviously I'd heard of him, gravity and all, but the other two, both with the first name Robert, were even more interesting. Robert Hooke and Robert Boyle were contemporaries of Newton's and often worked right alongside him, if not in his enormous shadow. All three scientists were fiercely competitive and laid claim to similar finds. Here's what the dots started to connect. Boyle, in particular, was a great enthusiast of alchemy. It was a secret fascination. As I read more about it, I began to understand that alchemy is, at least in part, the science of trying to turn one kind of metal into another. Boyle, I almost fell out of my chair when I read this, was totally obsessed with the properties of one thing in particular: gold. Alchemy, gold, the dredge, the crossbones, Dr. Watts. These things are all connected somehow. In that chart in my dad's dresser, the alchemist diagram of 75 for Paul McCrae. Henry and my dad are going to be home soon. I should go downstairs and sit on the porch so they don't wonder what I've been doing up here. No sense getting them suspicious when I don't have to. This is what I have so far. Joseph Bush, dead. Francis Palmer, dead. Paul McCrae, my dad, alchemy chart. Gladys Morgan, New York visit. The Apostle, send Sarah to check the churches. Dr. Watts, alive, alchemy, reclusive. Jordan Hook, fabricated. Wilson Boyle, fabricated. Hector Newton, fabricated. Darrell Bonner shows up mysteriously, can't be trusted. Few hours work and I've cut the list in half. Not bad. Sunday, September 10th, 10 p.m. It's clear my parents are serious about keeping me out of my room, and they've enlisted Henry to help them. Is it really 10? I'm tired. As soon as I got out on the porch, Henry and my dad came back home. They'd caught a slew of fish. September is always good up here on the creek, and they didn't let up for almost an hour talking about how this fly pattern and that rising fish and the one that got away. This is a little bit like watching a golf tournament on television, more background noise than anything that requires serious concentration. About a half an hour into this endless stream of fish talk, my mom informed me that Randy and Dennis were coming over for HBs with their parents. That was not good news. Randy and Dennis are brothers who live in town. My mom keeps trying to set us up, sort of like a play date for teenagers. These guys are about as interesting as dirt. We have exactly zero things in common, plus they're loud and they like to beat up on each other. I'm not even saying they're bad people exactly, just that I can't think of a single reason why I would want to spend my Sunday evening listening to them talk about video games, dirt bikes, and farts. But they showed up anyhow because I couldn't bring myself to tell Mom to cancel, and truthfully, it was almost worth it for the HB. An HB, in case I die and this journal is found in a ditch somewhere 100 years from now, is a Henry bomb. This is a burger that is huge beyond all reason. Part of the fun of having an HB is to see how much of it you can eat. No one, to my knowledge, has ever finished a Henry bomb. My mom and Randy and Dennis's mom split half of one HB, if that tells you anything, and my mom is no slouch. She can put away a Whopper, no problem. But this thing, half of an HB, is like a whole meatloaf. Our grill is pretty good size, but Henry only cooks one H-bomb at a time because they're extraordinarily made to order. Tomatoes, lettuce, onions, special sauce. It's a secret, it's orange, and it's awesome. Every kind of pepper, about a dozen Ziploc bags filled with seasoning salt of varying degrees of heat. Total wimp all the way to blow your head off. Don't even get me started on the HB buns, which Henry makes himself from frozen bread dough. Think Frisbee and you're in the ballpark. I tried and failed to eat an entire HB. It took a long time. Just checked my phone and Sarah texted me. 9 EMV at 6:30 a.m. MUEL. Delete. 9 means her parents are watching. They must be paying closer attention than usual. Emailing video at 6:30 a.m. She misses me. Ends with evil laugh. Actually, I'm sort of glad she's not sending me a video until tomorrow morning. Half the time I get these things at night, then I can't sleep. I'm taking 5 minutes to write her an update on alchemy and the apostle and everything else I figured out. And then it's lights out. Monday, September 20th, 6:30 a.m. Monday morning, exactly 1 week from now, I'll be getting ready for school. Maybe classes and homework will make my life feel normal again. The second I woke up, I sat up and looked at all the walls in my room. There was no new writing. Either I couldn't find a pen in my sleep last night. This is possible since I made a point of putting every pen I have at the back of a drawer and shutting it tight. Or whoever wrote the first message doesn't feel like he needed to tell me twice. And then there was this other worse feeling as I woke up and looked at the poster I moved. If I lifted it and looked underneath, would the words even be there? Don't make me come looking for you. This is how messed up my memory is becoming. Can I even tell the difference between truth and fiction? I checked my phone, no password. I checked my email, no password. Then I looked out the window and saw a piece of paper was taped to the outside. This can't be good. I pulled the window up just far enough to reach my hand under and take the note. I can hear my parents talking down the hall, getting ready to leave for work. Henry would sleep in late and probably go fishing. Pretty soon I'd have the house to myself. Here's what the note said. No more email or text messaging for a couple of days. My parents are really cracking down. Bonner stopped by here yesterday, Sunday. Can you believe that? He told my parents someone had cut the lock on the dredge and gone back in. He came right out and said he suspected it was me. Unbelievable. He kept giving me the evil eye like when I was in his office the other day. It's a good thing I grabbed those bolt cutters on the way out or we'd be finished. Don't be surprised if he shows up at your front door. I got your message about the alchemy. Very interesting. I wish we could sit down and talk. It's killing me. I'll do some digging at the church on the edge of town after school. For now, I've got some big news of my own. Just go to the site and use Castle Fornato as the password. I have to get back to my house before it gets lights out. I can't wait to see you, but don't send any more emails or texts, at least for today. It's too risky. Leave me messages at the Blue Rock, like we used to when we were kids, and I'll do the same. Sarah. P.S. I heard you had Henry bombs last night. Everyone heard. I'm so mad I couldn't be there. I bet you tried to eat a whole one since we couldn't split it, didn't you? That might be the best password yet. Very impressive. And she's right. I did miss having her there to eat half my dinner. Being a glutton didn't being a glutton about it didn't make me any less lonely. Plus I got a stomach ache. The Blue Rock. A hassle, but at least it'll be safer with Daryl Bonner snooping around. Ever since that guy came to town a few weeks ago, there's been nothing but trouble. What's his real reason for transferring here? I can hear people in the house. Dad's shaving. Mama's making coffee. I better make a showing. Then I'll come back and check the video. Monday, September 20th, 7:45 a.m. Parents are gone and Henry is still asleep downstairs. Time to check that video. Please go and watch what Sarah sent me, then come back here, and I'll be waiting. SarahFincher.com. Password, Castle of Aranto.